Okay, we're gonna go ahead and lay out our pattern pieces on our fabric. One thing that you wanna check is the direction of your fabric. If you have plain solid fabric, you aren't going to have to worry about this, but if you have a print, you wanna be very careful to see if it has a certain direction. So for example, if I was looking at this strawberry fabric, if you look at the blueberries, you can tell that the blueberries, they are right side up or upside down. So they're going both directions. So technically, if I was to do this, like was just going off the blueberries, I might be like, oh, it has like, there's a print, but it doesn't have a certain direction that I need to worry about. And so it wouldn't necessarily matter which way. Now on this one, if you look at the strawberries kind of have the tops of the green going just one way. So if I were to place my pattern going this way, then the strawberries would be kind of like, the stems would be downward. You might not worry about that and like be like, it doesn't matter, but sometimes you might. So if that's the case, you might need to make sure that your pattern is going where the top of the pattern is going a certain direction. The next thing that you need to remember, so we want to follow the symbols on our pattern. So our place on fold, it needs to be on the folded edge of the fabric. And then our grain lines need to be on the grain line, so parallel to that selvage edge. So as you're laying it out, you want to make sure that at every point that this line is going to be the same distance from that line to that selvage edge. So I'm going to go ahead and place my pattern pieces accordingly. Okay, so a couple things I've done is just like I said, my pattern is going, I want it to be the top up here on this skinny narrow part. This is the top of our apron. And so I actually flipped my pattern piece because I need this edge has to be on the folded edge, okay? Because we want to have a full piece. And so we're not going to be cutting through this folded edge. So we want that straight on there. The other thing is my pocket. So my pocket, I'm going to make sure that the grain line is the same distance from my selvage edge. So I like to measure that distance with my ruler. And so I would just make sure that my edge is the same. And if it's not, then I would rotate it so that it is. Okay, same thing with this. So as I go through, I'm going to measure and pin down these pieces. So when we pin, we want to make sure that it goes through both of our layers and comes back out on the top layer. So I just poke it through so it comes in and out. We want to make sure that there's enough pins to hold down, but you don't need so many pins that it wrinkles, like puckers like your pattern up. The other thing is you want to make sure that you're pinning inside of the pattern piece, because when we cut our fabric, we don't want to have to work around our pins and take them out. So I'm going to go ahead and work on pinning my pattern pieces down. Okay, so I have pinned, you can see I kind of have the pins in the corners of my edges and then on the ends of my straps, and I've measured my grain lines. The other thing I forgot to mention is make sure that when you're laying out your patterns that it is down through both layers, that you don't have like, if you didn't stack them correctly or one's like longer than the other, you just want to make sure that your pattern can be fully cut out. The other thing is like with the pocket, if you aren't cutting out, if you don't want to do a pocket, you don't have to cut a pocket out. And this will give you more pockets than you need, but sometimes I just lay it out this way, and so it's easier just to cut out. And if you have extra, then we have them for backup if we want later, or we can put them in the scrap bin if we don't end up using them. So now that it's pinned, make sure you have the teacher check it before moving on to the next step.